are the co-founders of Dipper.
Dipper is a technology platform that guides professionals of color to a better workplace, one review at a time.
Dipper is your safe space. It is the time for you to share your voice with a community that you are a part of. Visit us and join today at ourdipper.com.
Welcome, everyone, and welcome to you, Jacinta.
Hey, Netta.
I miss you every week. I'm going to say that every week.
What was that? I didn't hear you.
I miss you every week, and I'm going to say it every week. Every time we have a shut up and listen session, I'm just going to say that.
I was just thinking, I was like, our quick, like 15-minute chats feel like therapy. But I'm like, but it's public. Like the people can see us.
Public therapy. Right? Like that has to exist.
Like the people can see us. It is like out there. Like talk about transparency. Like you talk about like, oh, you operate in like transparent. And it's like, no, but this is like the people can see us. It's right here.
This is vulnerability. This is transparency.
Yeah.
This is friendship. This is love. This is, listen, we want to inspire the people right through our public therapy. I love that.
I know. And it's been great to hear feedback from folks on like how it's helped and the topics, right? Like today's topic didn't just come from our brain.
It didn't come from our brain. In fact, it came from many of our viewers that were watching and that have shared their perspectives and experiences around folks whining at work, whining in the workplace, right? So today we are fully focused on whining in the workplace. But before we dive into this conversation, everyone that's tuned in right now, head to ourdipper.com and please write your review. Don't just whine about it, right? Write your review because you are going to be able to pay it forward by allowing someone else to see your review and be guided to the right workplace or to a better workplace. So you may be having a positive experience at work. We love that. We want to hear that, right? Add that to your review. But if you're not having the best experience at work, add that as well. We want to make sure that people aren't going to those workplaces. They're going to the right places that will alleviate them of stress or alleviate them from whining at Jacinta where? At work. Right?
Yeah.
All right.
Like Netta, one thing as this topic came up, and we're both moms. So we deal with a lot of whining throughout our lives, right?
Right.
But I started to think about like what is whining and how is this different from like airing a grievance or just like identifying a blocker or a problem, right? Because like when I do one-on-ones with my team, one thing I always ask is like, how are you blocked and how and so how would you define whining?
Yeah. So interesting. I define whining as an individual that does not want to be solution oriented or does not want to see a change. And some folks may be hearing me right now saying that and saying, well, I don't think there's anyone in this world that doesn't want to see a change. But no. Because if you are in a situation where you are unhappy, where you feel like it is a problem, it's affecting your livelihood, it's affecting your mindset, it's affecting your mind, body, and soul, and you still are not thinking about how can I be solution oriented? How can I create a strategy or a way out for myself so that I have this level of peace and happiness? And that's not being developed, but you're sitting in that situation whining. Because oftentimes when people whine, you're whining to someone else. Mm-hmm. And the person that you may be whining to, in fact, may have a lot that they're dealing with. So you never know what another person is battling or what they're dealing with in their lives. And, oftentimes what I do see within the workplace is that there's an actual privilege
Mm.
to be able to whine and keep your job. And I have
'Cause
to
you
say
think it's
those
the safety, right? It's like that privilege of
oh,
safety.
absolutely.
Yeah.
The privilege around feeling safe enough to
Mhm.
be very open and vocal um, about your dissatisfaction over and over and over. But know that, hey, whatever I say or whatever behavior that I have, I'll still have my job.
Mhm.
And it's a bit troubling for me at times when I do see that, because I find that people from systemically overlooked populations don't have that same privilege. Right?
Mm.
So you may be dissatisfied with something, you may vent to your family about it, you may
Yeah.
perhaps even vent to a colleague, but that may be as far as it goes, because you know that, hey, if I start really whining about this situation, I'm not going to have a job today or tomorrow. So it's very
Yeah.
interesting. But how do you think about whining?
Yeah, I've definitely feeling like airing of anxiety. So I I think the technical definition of whining, I think, includes like there's some level of like stress and anxiety tied
Yeah,
to the situation you're communicating. And I think it is so important to find that safe person that you can vent to. I know, like, we have been that for each other in the workplace
yeah,
before.
yeah,
And sometimes that person works with you, and sometimes they don't work with you.
right.
Um, but you definitely need a safe place, a safe person, a space
Yeah,
to like just be your authentic self and use your authentic voice to just air, right?
yeah,
And hopefully that person is doing a thing for you where they're hearing you and giving you space, but also thinking and challenging you to think differently about what's next or like the solution. And I think what I found that really helps is creating intention for a conversation before it actually happens.
oh,
So
absolutely.
even doing that with your safe person, like saying, Netta, like, I need to vent. I just
Mhm,
need you to hear me.
mhm,
you know, and
mhm.
like I think that helps a lot. And then, and then on being on the other end of that, saying like, I hear you, like, if you want to follow up and talk more about like what's next, let's do that. But it does seem very valuable to like give people that space. And I'd love for people like in the comments, please let us know like if you how you define whining, because I think that would be really interesting to get your perspective. And also if you have any questions, like we want to throughout this conversation make sure we try to answer them, and we don't have all the answers, but
Yeah,
we definitely will help to try to like point things in the right direction or assign the right resources for sure. But there
yeah.
is I do wonder, like, do we, especially Black women, like, do we carry a certain level of anxiety because we're not given the space or the safety to vent?
Mhm.
So I do think it's important that we kind of establish that intention.
Right.
But also, I found lately, like, I don't have the capacity all the time for everyone's conversation.
Yeah, yeah. I
You
yeah. It's
know?
it's
Like,
interesting, right? Because I think too when when folks feel or they know the position that you're in and
yeah,
they're really comfortable, and like for yourself, just into you're a leader within your organization. So am I, right? So there are many people that are going to want to kind of share naturally, and that's okay. And I always say it's very important for people to find their tribe. Find those people, like if you are going to um whine, right? Because it's okay sometimes to whine. Sometimes
It's gonna
we need to
happen.
get
It's
that
gonna
out, right? But
happen.
find your tribe. It can't just be anybody that you're then whining to because it's not productive. And one of the things I found with whining too is it harms your mindset. It creates self-perpetuate. It actually creates a
Netta,
self-perpetuating
say that part
vicious
again. Say that
cycle.
part again for the
It
people in the back.
harms.
For
It
the people in the back.
harms.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm going to sing right now. It harms. It really harms your mindset.
Mm-hmm.
It harms your mindset and it creates a self-perpetuating vicious cycle. And what I've found and what I oftentimes tell people is, again, if you are in a situation where you're dissatisfied, you're annoyed, and especially within the workplace, there are many things
Yeah.
that we can all be annoyed with, and you have that dissatisfaction. You have to also find a solution.
Mm-hmm.
And it may not be finding a solution for that organization, but finding the solution for yourself.
For you. Yeah.
Does that, in fact, mean you stay there and you continue to whine? Because when you whine, you also cause other people stress around you. Whining is also contagious.
Girl,
Right?
polluting, a new phrase that I've recently kind of understood is
Right.
the thought of polluting the well.
Woo.
And
Okay.
so, like, and I also feel like as a leader, it
Yeah.
is our responsibility to make sure the well does not get polluted. Like, like we
Right.
can't, because
Mm.
you have to keep, your team motivated, yourself motivated. And now these are like super uncertain times, right? People are uneasy. There's a lot going on. People are personally and professionally dealing with a lot.
Mhm.
So it's so important to just like hone in on things as soon as they happen,
Yeah.
because it's just like you said, it can be contagious, right? Like
It can really be
that
contagious.
mindset can be contagious. So it needs to be addressed. Yeah.
And oftentimes I like to be a bit sensitive to whining because I think it also stems from our upbringing.
Yeah.
Both of us have amazing parents, mothers, right? Strong, amazing Black women that have guided us and they still continue to lead us. In fact, your mom is no joke though. She's our attorney, so we got to show love to her, right?
Right.
Um, but but again, when I think about my childhood and I remember when I went back home, crying back home to my mother because a little white boy in middle school said to me, I heard your family's from Africa. Let me see how far and fast you can climb up this tree.
Mm.
I got on that bus. I was like eager to get home to my mom, right? And I broke down and I was crying. My mother said, Netta, I did not bring you in this world to cry about things. I brought you in this world to create change. I thought my mom was like, I'm like, well, something special about her.
Right.
What is she talking about? Does she think I'm Martin Luther King? Right. But in fact, what my mom was teaching me at a very young age was that I want you to channel that energy. I want you to channel that pain. And I want you to think about how you're going to create impact, how you're going to solve. So
Mm-hmm.
being solution oriented has always been a part of me. That's
Yeah.
all I know. I remember, someone that I was reporting to previously had said to me, "Well, Netta, you have you're so grassroots." That's all I know, right? Like, all I know is how to take something that's nothing and make it something better.
Right.
And so venting is healthy when we're doing it with the right people and we're finding the right time and space. But whining, and Jesse Belazier here, and I have to populate this comment here. Whining is constantly complaining without ever having a solution.
Mm-hmm.
Again, and you told me to amplify it, so I'm going to amplify it one more time. It harms your mindset, and in
Yeah.
fact, it is very contagious.
And I love that. And I think and thanks, Israel, for joining us. This is recorded and it will be on our YouTube. So if you have to leave or you miss it, like you can definitely watch it again. But one thing I thought of too was like, what good comes of it? And there is some good, because, also in management and leadership, we don't always know what's happening in all parts of the org, right? And sometimes it's through people like opening up and venting, you may get a pulse of like what is truly happening and what are truly blockers to other leaders in the organization, or how people are or are not feeling supported. So it can be like a window and a way to expose the reality of like what is happening. And so that's why I think it's great to kind of give it space at times, um, and be an active listener.
Exactly. And I love that. What I try to do is in these situations, pause.
Yeah.
If it's something that really has me, unsettled, it's bringing some anxiety upon me. I know that I really want to just vent about it. I'll do that. I make time and space for that with my tribe. But then what I always do is I go back to the drawing board and I say, because I'm a very vocal person, so are you. And so I'll write it down. I'll say, especially as it relates to the workplace, here's what I'm dissatisfied with, and here's where I want to see change. But here's the solutions. Now, within a workplace, when I present that and I'm sharing, okay, here's my dissatisfaction, or here are some of the challenges that I see that exist, and I provide my solution, and I see that these solutions are not implemented or they're not even acknowledged or considered, that's when I have to make a solution for myself and say, okay, now is this the right place for me? When I see that because not everything that you bring up is going to be implemented. I get it, right? But when people are kind of considering, you know what, this is a great idea. We want to definitely implement this. We're going to go about implementing it this way. It may take it may take this amount of time, but we're going to implement. That's a step. But when you kind of hear that dead silence, that's a different message. And that's when I then say to myself, okay, Netta, do you need to be here? Or do you need to be somewhere else? And I think it's very, very important that people find that space and that time to understand, hey, what's the solution going to be for me? I've presented, I know I'm dissatisfied. I've done my venting with my tribe. I've brought it to the table within the workplace. I've even brought up some solutions that can be implemented. Nothing is nothing is shifting here. Here's the solution for myself. So it's critical that people do that, or else it's just whining.
Yeah. And
Right?
I do want to make sure I'm saying your name correctly. I believe it's Ayana. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
And this is such a powerful statement. And I do not disagree at all. A toxic work environment is hard, and
Absolutely.
it is very hard to also stay positive in that work environment, for sure. And I everyone's situation is different. Everyone, even where you work, is very different. Like I talk to folks often about the difference between like early stage startup environment versus like government work, for sure. And so, I took the time. I was in a very toxic work environment, and something that worked for me may not work for everyone, but I did two things. I got a therapist just to talk about work with. Like, it seemed very strange, but I was like, this was the part that was impacting me at home. It was impacting my like just the pressure I had with my own daughter when I was helping her with homework. I was like, this has got to change. And then I also had an executive coach, um, that and this is I added people to my tribe that had the resources that I felt I needed in this particular situation, because I couldn't effectively make all the change that needed to happen. I know we want to be the change we want to see in the world, right? And that you can't independently by yourself, you alone, be the hero for an entire organization or entire government agency. But what is extremely important is you and your, mental capacity, your health, because you can't do good work if you don't feel good. Like, you just can't. And so sometimes it's like taking that step back to like feel good and recognize like where and how do I feel good.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think you raised such a great point, Jacinta, because I remember early in my career, I was working at a research marketing firm. That was the worst experience that
Mm,
I inhale and then exhale. That is the worst experience that I have ever had. The person that I was reporting to, they were at a senior level, and I was a assistant director at the time. Um, that person treated me as if I was not even like a human, right?
mm,
It was really tough, but during that time, I was also supporting my entire family. So financially, I was looking at the situation. I'm like, you know what? Let me just keep on going. I need my job. I don't want to take the time to find a new job just yet and switch. I need this income, this steady income coming in. But what I started to quickly realize is that there was stress that I was pushing away to the side, and it had
mm,
built up so much. I got so sick, I had to go into the hospital, right?
mm.
And because it was things that I was just kind of pushing to the
Yeah.
side and saying, oh, well, it'll come. The change will happen. The change will happen. But what it was I wasn't ready to create a solution for myself.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to find a solution for that organization. I was trying to find a solution for the individual that was treating me in that way. Um, I was trying to find every other solution, but it wasn't really about me.
Mm-hmm.
And there are so many hidden stories, and you and I have talked about this, of especially people from systemically overlooked populations that have committed suicide. These are hidden stories at notable organizations that have endured so much pain, but a lot of it then comes down to, oh, well, I have a family to feed. Oh, I have this, or I don't want, because I'm holding all the weight, I don't want my family to feel stressed, right? And
Mm-hmm.
there's so many other things that are happening, and then people take their own lives. So this conversation that we're having here, I think it's even more than just whining, right? And one of the reasons why both of us thought like, okay, this is something we definitely need to talk about here, is because it's a detriment to people's lives. When we begin to whine over and over and over about a particular situation, it's because we are so overwhelmed and at wit's end and so
Mm-hmm.
dissatisfied. And that is the moment we have to then look ourselves in the mirror and say, what solution am I going to create today for myself to
Mm-hmm.
save my sanity, to save my physical, right? To save every aspect of me and the people that I care most about as well.
Mm-hmm. Woo. And the
Yeah.
church says amen.
Okay. Right. um,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm so happy that we had this conversation today, but
Me too, girl.
I don't know if you have any other words. My other point though that I was going to say is within the workplace, like it's very important for us to begin to clarify our priorities. And I lean again on us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the things that has always been very hard for me, and like having a behavioral psychology background, I often feel like, okay, I can talk to people and I can, we can navigate and but I had to learn to just kind of pause,
Mm-hmm.
kind of revert back to myself and think about, okay, you may not be able to control what someone else does. You may not be able to change an organization as you'd like to, Netta. But what you can do is you can change your environment if you'd like, right? And so I started to clarify my priorities a lot more to identify, okay, what is most meaningful to me? And I started to also focus on opportunities. So what's the opportunity that I'm looking for within the workplace, right? So there's a lot there, but Jacinta, on to you. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it I love that it may sound selfish to
Yeah.
look like inward and to put the work in yourself when you are somewhere, but it's so important to for you yourself to make those reflections, right? And
Mhm.
then I think what's great is once you kind of get it together and work it out, the way that you will impact others will happen so naturally. I was talking to someone who it's crazy because I talked to two people, one yesterday, one today. I did not know these happened to be women that I had like touched their careers in some way or kind of mentored them by like just circumstance.
Yeah.
They just felt by watching the way you navigate and move in the workplace, like trained me on how I might need to navigate and move in the workplace. And they were like, that's invaluable. Like, I'm just very thankful. And, I didn't have to have like weekly one-on-ones with these people. These weren't people that were on my immediate team, but the way that when we decide to like make a different decision for ourselves, and how we value us, it's naturally going to start to be reflected in your work, reflected in your relationships. And it's just positive all the way around, even though sometimes it's hard to be positive. Find those things. Y'all, Beyonce, there's good news today. Okay. I'm just saying, there was good news today. Today is going to be a good day. So sometimes it's just finding the ways that positive light, and what light.
You're so right. I'm looking at the comments here. Ayana, thank you so much for being vulnerable and just kind of sharing your situation with us, because both Jacinta and I can definitely relate. Jacinta and I met in the workplace.
Yeah.
For all of you that are watching right now and don't know our story, we were both senior leaders. And let me tell you, when we saw each other, it was like the color purple. Jesse and I went to middle school together. Yeah. And we did like a little color purple performance. She probably is laughing right now because she remembers, but it was literally like that scene. I literally almost jumped on Jessica's back.
And Netta, I know I have to run, but we're going to do this again.
We sure will.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, everyone. So we are going to wrap up, but thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you. Go to Dipper.
Make sure you
share these experiences.
OurDipper.com and share your experiences with us and your reviews. Take care, everyone. Bye.